Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I just want to start by saying welcome and thank you for listening. Everybody who is downloading and playing this podcast, I really do appreciate your patronage. I don't take that lightly, and I really do appreciate you doing it. The more people that I can get to do this, the more that will support further episodes of doing this. So please share, please let your friends know, your family. If you think I'm doing a good job that's worthy of your approval, please give me a good rating on whichever platform you're listening. And you can even share it on. You can share it on a lot of platforms. You can also share it on whatever social media you prefer. We're on a few different ones: Facebook, Instagram, and anything helps. So thank you very much. To start today, this is just basically going to be a hot take on the not just the Israeli, the alleged Israeli participation in the pager bombing of Hezbollah. And it won't just be that, but that's kind of the premise, because what has come of that, among many other things, especially in the media and especially in the biased and progressive media here in the West, and also in the propagandas that are in the Middle East, the Islamic propagandist medias in the Middle East have been crying out, saying, calling this an act of terror uh, perpetrated by Israel upon Hezbollah. And what I want to do is just do a quick, this is going to be a fairly quick one. Like I said, you can call it a hot take, whatever you would like, but it's just a quick description and a quick advice on how you can very easily and very, how should I say, a very common sense approach to be able to tell who is the terrorist and who is not the terrorist. Okay? Now, a lot of you are probably rolling your eyes right now for one reason or another. Some are rolling their eyes because you already know it's very obvious, and it truly is very common sense to be able to tell and discern who's the bad guys here and who is fighting a war in defense, purely in a defense of their own nation and their own people, and who are the ones that are constantly lying, constantly attacking, and constantly acting as the aggressor and the bad guy. And others of you are rolling your eyes because, quite honestly, and I don't say this lightly and I don't say this as an insult, but you're blinded. You're blinded because of political reasons. Most of you who are listening, I'm just going to go and assume you're American, or at least westernized, and you're as a part of what we would call the Western civilization. So then you probably have major political biases if you are unable to tell the difference between the terrorists and the ones who are not the terrorists. But I'll come back to that in just a few minutes. So to start, one of the first ways, and I say some of this with a little bit of, you might pick up on a little bit of sarcasm, and I guess I might do that, have a little bit of that kind of a tone, but it's because it truly is so basic. It's hard not to, but I'm going to try not to. I really do want to just list some things out. And if you are of a different opinion than what I'm saying right now, all I ask is that you listen to these few things. They're very simple. To start, look at when we're talking about these two sides, and in particular between Hezbollah and Israel, which of the two has stated in their charter, in their manifesto, whatever you want to call it, they have stated that they want to obliterate the entire people of the other side. And now I don't mean to dismantle the organization, because that's what Israel has been honest about. They do want to dismantle Hezbollah. The same goes for Hamas, but those are two different entities and have two different. They're both against Israel, but they're two different entities and two different whole subjects there. But The reasoning that Israel has stated that they want to completely dismantle and do away with the organization is because the organization, that they can't be safe while the organization exists. They just simply can't be safe, and their people can't be safe. And they are, furthermore, they're not saying, Israel has never said that they want to destroy all of the Islamic people or all of the Muslims. On the other hand, Hezbollah has stated that they want to kill every Israeli, all Israelis. They want to wipe the nation of Israel off of the earth, including all of the women and children, along with their men. They have publicly and unabashedly stated this. That's clue number one. And this is verifiable. I invite you, and I even encourage you, look these things up and try to know the difference between Israel wanting to destroy and get rid of a terrorist organization, but not wanting to destroy, get rid of all of the Islamic people or all Muslims. The difference between that and the difference between Hezbollah or any other organization saying they want to kill all of the Israeli people and wipe the nation from the earth. Those are two different things. Number two would be, look at how they each fight these battles. Look at how each fights a battle. First of all, as I've said before, one is the aggressor. Hezbollah is always the aggressor, and Israel responds to those attacks in defense. Sometimes they wait a long time to respond, or sometimes they attack even harder than Hezbollah attacks them, but that does not make them the aggressor. That makes them a strong defense force. That makes them smart for wanting to respond with strength and with determination to try to dissuade this enemy that wants to kill them. But beyond that, I would tell you to look at who attacks indiscriminately, or whenever they do target, they target innocent civilians. And that would be Hezbollah. They lob hundreds and thousands of rockets towards Israel with not caring who they hit, and in fact commit terrorist attacks against civilian populations, against women, against children, and not just the men and women who are fighting this war against them. That is what's a terrorist attack. A terrorist attack is, by definition, it could sometimes be against military people and military posts and military organizations, but it is also oftentimes committed against civilian populations, against and without regard to whether there are women and children and innocent people involved. Sometimes they want the innocents to be involved because it heightens the brutality of it, and therefore heightens the terror, which is what they are wanting. That is the definition of terrorism. That's how terrorism is used, at least attempted to be used, by terrorist organizations. On the other hand, in contrast to that, Israel always tries to target their attacks. They try to make precision attacks as much as possible, and they can't always. And yes, they have had civilian casualties whenever they attack these terrorist organizations. And it's tragic, it's terrible, it's not good at all. But they try in earnest and are often way more often very successful than the times whenever they are not as successful. And this pager bomb incident that happened this last week is a prime example. I would really love to go into this a little bit further and into a little more detail, but I don't have the time right now because I want this to remain on the differentiation. I want to remain on topic, but maybe we'll go into the pager bombing thing a little bit further. But just to give you just a tiny bit of quick background, if you don't know already, the determination that went into this and the patience that went into this attack. And by the way, there has been no official acceptance of responsibility by Israel. Everybody's assuming it is. I'll be honest with you, I I assume it probably was Israel, but they haven't accepted responsibility. So I'm going to I'm going to talk as if they are, but I want to make that clear that I'm not saying that I know that it was Israel or some sort of a fact. I digress. The patience and the skill and the technical prowess that it took and the determination to make this a very targeted attack and to not harm anyone else other than who they meant to harm, other than the truly bad guys. So much went into this that it shows how badly Israel wants to spare innocent civilians. They're willing to go to this much trouble to make it to where they can respond with a very, very sizable attack towards Hezbollah in this case without harming anyone else. And we're seeing this so far that I know of. I have not seen any reports of, in this particular attack, of innocents or people that they were not targeting being harmed, even whenever they're standing mere feet away from the people who were either killed or wounded by the attack. There were some 2,000 or 3,000 pagers that they got hold of and were able to somehow. Again, I don't want to go into it in too much detail just because of time, but the attackers were able to make it to where they could harm the people wearing the pagers who were their target and no one else. And they did. There's no reports of bystanders being harmed that I've heard of yet. It has all been the ones who were the Hezbollah organization members, and they were wearing the pager themselves. And these pagers were bought by the organization, given to their operatives who are terrorists themselves. Several died. Many were badly injured, and it put a very hard and very enormous hurt on Hezbollah, on their organization. It did exactly what Israel wanted it to, allegedly Israel, without harming anyone else. And it wouldn't surprise me if there come some isolated incidents where maybe it harmed one or two others that they didn't intend. And again, that is unfortunately the part of war. But the trouble that they went to, the enormous trouble, and this could have been years or even decades in the making. They just don't know yet. But the fact that they would go to that much trouble shows you how much they do not want to harm people who are not a target of theirs and people who could be innocent. So I want to end with this, and I want to go ahead and end now for the sake of time. I could go on a little bit more, but I really did want to keep this short and very simple. I want to leave you with this thought if you're listening to this. If you agree with what I've said, if this is not news to you, then good. I'm glad we agree. And if you have, even if you agree and you have other things to add, please call up and let me know at 762-25-6-308. Let me know. Call me, leave me a message, text me at that number. If you disagree, of course, I always want to hear from someone who disagrees. Let me know what your thoughts are. But I want to leave you with this thought. Just take in what I've said. Think about it with a very basic and simple approach. Who are the ones who are acting evil? What does evil do? Evil seeks to harm just for the sake of harming, just for the sake of killing. Unfortunately, the good guys in this case, they still have to harm and they still have to kill, but it is merely and only in defense of their own people. It's a very basic and a very common sense fact that that's how the two different sides operate. That's the difference between good and evil. Evil is an aggressor, and evil aims to harm others just for the sake of that. You're going to hear a lot of propaganda and a lot of people crying about how Israel is a bully, they're terrorists, but for being bullies and terrorists, they sure are going to a lot of trouble to spare lives, even whenever they have to mount an attack. So take that, think about it. Hey, if you have a different take on it, the only way you can let me know is by sending me a message, 762-25-6-308. In the meantime, until the next time I send out another podcast soon, hopefully. Just please